Welcome back to the second half of the past paper walkthrough of this GCSE mathematics paper. So we're on question 15. We need to finish the paper in this video. So let's get started. So we want to find the ratio between x and y. The way to do this is to first convert x and y into just x equals to some form of y, or the other way around. So in this case, we can multiply both sides by 2. We get 6x equals to y, which means that if we were to create a ratio, we need to convert the setup such that we get a fraction of x over y. In this particular case, it would be 1/6, which means that y is 6 times the size of x, which is 1:6 ratio, which is this one over here. Do not confuse that with 6:1 ratio because it's the opposite way around. Just remember, it's much easier to form it into a fraction with x, y, and then you can say 1:6 rather than having to do some form of that, and then you get confused with, because 6 and x is 6, right? So that's the confusion that people have normally. Right, so second number, a sequence of numbers is formed by the iterative process of that particular thing, and we need to work out u2 and u3. Right, so you know that u1 is 9 is equal to that 4 over u0 minus 1. Doesn't actually matter here. If I want u2, I will have to take 4 divided by u1 minus 1, which is 4 on 8, which is a half, right? So that's how you do it. And then because it's iterative, you have to do essentially the same thing. u3 is equal to 4 on a half minus 1, which is minus a half at the bottom. So 4 divided by minus a half is 8. So that's, minus 8 rather. Don't forget the negative. So that's the answer to this question. You can keep going forever and ever, but there's no point. Okay, Jim buys a plant of height 20 and it grows linearly over the 4 days. So write a formula of h in terms of n. So h, this is just a equation generation question. So we know that when x has been added by 4, or x increases from 0 to 4, the height grows from 20 to 32, right? So we want to first find the gradient. This is a straight line graph. We know that y equals to mx plus c is the general formula, and in this case y is h is equal to some amount of n plus a constant. The constant is the y-intercept, which is 20, and we know that the well, we don't know what m is just yet, but using this equation we can tell that we can do some algebra essentially. So take 2 points, let's take y-intercept, which is wait, hang on, no, you don't want to do that. Let's take n equals 1, because that gives us a variable to work with. So at this point in time, this is 23. So 23 is equals to 1 lot of m plus 20, which means that at n equals to 1, m is so n equals to 1, m equals 3, which I guess that's all you need really. So yeah, so write the formula of h in terms of n, so you just need to reconstruct the equation, which here is h equals to 3n plus 20, and that's the equation. Of course, write it in the actual place rather than anywhere else on the page. Solve the simultaneous equation. Now this is not too difficult. So what we want is to essentially cancel the 2y from the 4y. So we know that 4y is, if we multiply this by 2, we get 8x minus 14. And we know that we have 2x plus 4y, which at this point is 8x minus 14, is equal to minus 9, right? So now we can expand the whole thing. We get 10 log of x minus 14 is minus 9, so we add 14 on both sides. That gives us 5 and 10x, so x equals to 1/2, right? And with that information, we can now get that 2y equals to 4 lots of 1/2 minus 7, and that's 2 minus 7 is minus 5 is 2y, so y is minus 2.5, right? So that's simple simultaneous equation. If you can't do this, do revise. It's pretty trivial. And this is higher paper, you should be able to do this. 2.5, yeah. It doesn't matter whether you do it in fractions or in decimals, they're the same thing really. So they get marked the same. So the expression that is equivalent to x on 5 plus x on 10. So first find a common denominator, which is 10, and that is 2x plus x on 10, which gives you 3x on 10. That's easy. Write down the value of 7 to 0, anything to the 0 is 1. That's just something that you should already know. Work out the value of 32 to the power of minus 3/5. So it just so happens that you know, I hope, that 32 is 2 to the power of 5. These are pretty obvious, I suppose. That is if you've done enough base 2 calculations, but probably a bit harsh for GCSE level, but what can you do? So to the 5, now that is to the minus 3/5, which means that we need to fifth root this, which is just 2 to the minus 3, right? And 2 to minus is 1 over, reciprocal, 2 to the 3. 2 to the 3 is 8, so that's 1/8. Yeah, just if you can't realize that the 32 is a 2 to the power 5, then this question is pretty difficult. Write these numbers in order of size. Right, this is not the easiest, but we can work it out. 15.6 is some number that we don't need to work out. I'm happy with that value, I suppose. 47 on 3 is probably best to be converted into some form of a fraction, so that is 1 and then 5 and 1/3 or 2/3. 2/3, yeah. 15 and 2/3 or 15.6 recurring. So we know that this is definitely greater than 15.6. So we just need to slot in these two in the middle. So we know that 15.6 is smaller than 43 on 3. Now we want to figure out what root 23 is, which is fairly difficult, to be honest. Right, so we know that the square root of 16 is 4, square root 25 is 5, so this is just shy of 3 to the root 25, which is equal to 15, because 5 times 3 is 50. 5 times 3 is 15. And so we know that this has to be smaller than 15.6, right? And so we've got that one fixed as well. Now we have 2.1 to the power 4. So 2.1 is roughly 2. 2 to the power 4 is equal to 16. So 2.1 is bigger than 2, which means 2.1 to the power 4 is greater than 16, which means that that value has to be much bigger than 15.6 recurring. So that is the correct arrangement. So start with the smallest. We have 3 root 23. We have 15.6, we have 43 on 3, and finally we have 2.1 to the 4. Right, so now y is directly proportional to x cubed. It helps to draw it out. And then y is 17 while x is 4. Okay, so y is equal to n lots of x cubed. N log x cubed plus m. And we know that y is 17 when x is 4, so 4 to the cube is 16 times 4 is 64, and plus m, and hang on, no, there isn't an m here because it's directly proportional, which means that it's just that. So we can find out n equals to 64 on 17, which I can't do by head, but I'll just keep the fraction in because this is non-calculator paper. So I think the answer is y equals to 64 on 17 x cubed. That would be the equation. M is inversely proportional to root r, where r is multiplied by 4. And if the r is multiplied by 4, which means that it's instead of root r is now root 4r, that can be fractioned out, or that can be taken to be 2 root r, which means that now we have an extra 2 as a factor, which is multiplied by 2. But it's inversely proportional, so it's actually divided, so sorry about that. Read the question, don't be me. ABCD is a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is not cyclic quadrilateral, and we need to prove this. Okay. So cyclic quadrilateral is that all 4 points A, B, C, and D are on a circle. So something like that, and we need to prove that that's not possible. And so if we, this is a tricky question actually. We can first work out x, that's a starting point. And we have, let's see, we have the sum of all angles within a closed system, or a closed shape, is 360 degrees. So that would have to be 360, and we can group all the x together, so that's 10 log of x, and that's 66,158. I did math right here. Yes, sounds about right. 360, and if we do the algebra here, 10x is 202, I believe. Yeah, and then x is equal to 20.2 degrees. So for a cyclic quadrilateral, the opposite corners sum up to 180 degrees. So all we're trying to say is 4x plus 92 has to be equal to 180 if cyclic, which means that if we do the calculation, we have 88 is 4x, and x equals to 22, not 20.2. So we have a contradiction here, which means that actually not cyclic. So this is proof by contradiction, which is relatively straightforward, but it's a bit confusing, especially if you don't know what a cyclic quadrilateral is and their properties. Revise your circle theorem if you're confused. Y is an obtuse angle. Which of these statements is true? So it's just one. So if y is an obtuse angle, obtuse mean that it's greater than 90 degrees. Okay, so right. Which of these statements are true? So we're gonna have to try to understand this graphically. So if we say y is this, hang on a minute, it's wxy normally, so, and then we have the opposite line, so normally that's that's how you draw a triangle. For a obtuse angle, Oh, hang on, I don't need to do this. Why am I doing this? This is my bad. You can do it via the sine sine and cosine wave, which is much easier and a lot less confusing than drawing triangles. So this is sine, this is cosine, and we know that 90 is here, and we know that 90 is here. If it's obtuse, it's greater than 90 degrees and smaller than 180. So it's smaller than 180 down here. So it's somewhere down this stretch and somewhere up this stretch, right? And we know that sine y, if it's greater than 90, sine is greater, so this is greater than 0, cosine y is smaller than 0. So it's not this one, it is this one, not this one, and not that one. Okay, so that's how you're meant to do this, rather than whatever I just tried to do, which is to use triangles. Right, what's the time now? I've got another 11 minute-ish. Histogram is statistics. So histogram have a width to the width of the histogram is important. Let's see. So we have 3 out of 4 bars. The bar for 170 to 180 is missing, and we need to find the or try to fill it in. So we need to know what the population of the represented area is. So we know that the frequency of the smallest, the first bar, this one, is 2 times 5, and we know the middle bar here, we have, that's 3 times 10, and then the last one here is 4 times 5. If we add those up, is 10 plus 30 plus 20, which give us 60. So out of 74, we need to take we need to find the missing ones, which is 14 of them. The 14 of them need to be represented in a 10 wide space, which means that I need a height of 1.4. 1.4 is down here, which means that I just need to fill in something along this line, and that's as good as we can do it. Okay, so 14 on root 7 can be written in that form. So what we need to do is essentially convert 14 into some form of root 7. So we know that 14 is 2 times 7, and we know that 7 equals to root 7 squared, which means that we have 2 times root 7 times root 7 divided by root 7, which that cancels to just 1, which gives us 2 roots. I keep writing 3 for some reason. 2 root 7 as our answer. So A is 2, B is 7, that's fine. Work out that square root thing. Okay, so that's interesting. Root 10 is root 2 times root 5, and we have 2 lots of it, multiplied by root 80. 80 is 5 times 16, so it's 4 root 5. So how to do this is 80 equals to 16 times 5, and then 16 square root equals to 4, right? So hope that's clear enough. and then you multiply that by root 18, which is 2 times 9, right? So root 2 times root 9, which is 3. And now we know that root 2 is paired with a root 2, a root 5 is paired with a root 5, which means that we have a net total of just a 2 and a 5, and then you have my times 4 times 3, right? So we've paired them up into that, and we've paired these two up to be that. And then we just have to fill in the rest of the whole numbers. So we have 2 times 2 is 4 times 4, and then 5 times 3, so that's 16, why is it that, times 5 times 3 equals to 80 times 3, and that is 240 as the integer answer. A and B is similar solid cylinder, similar shapes. So we need to complete the ratio. So base area of A to base area of B is 9 to 25. So we know that the base area of a cylinder is pi r squared. So to complete the ratio, we know that essentially we want to know what the linear relationship of the A and B is to get the height relationship, and for curved surface area is 2 pi RH as the value of interest. So the ratio between the r's would be the same as the ratio between the heights, which we can calculate to be 9 to 25 is so 9 on 25 is equal to pi r squared of A and divided by pi r squared of B, which if we cancel everything as we can and then essentially do a big square root over the 2, we get 3 on 5 as R A on R B. Right, so we have R A to R B is 3 to 5, so the height is 3 to 5. And then curved surface area, we have essentially one lot of height, one lot of the linear relationship times another lot of the linear relationship, which ultimately is just exactly the same as the given ratio, because the given ratio is in terms of area, and the curved surface area is surprisingly also an area. So this is just 9 to 25 as well. And this is a tricky concept to get around, but you have to get used to it. And then we have finally we have the factorize. So we factorize 144 minus 4, so we take 4 out of the equation. Oh, no, actually we don't. We can do better than that. So this is the difference of 2 squared. 144 is 12 squared minus 2x all squared. So remember 4 is a 2 squared. And so because it's a difference of 2 squared, it is A plus B times A minus B. So that's the factorized. And we can actually take another 4 out as well. So actually, before we do that, we might as well do take the 4 out beforehand, which will be 4 times Let's see. $38, I think. Is that right? No, it's not. 6 is the right. Yeah, 6 is the right one. So 4 times 36 minus x squared. So 36 is 6 squared, right? So 6 squared minus x squared. That is 4, and that gives us 4 times 6 plus x, 6 minus x. So that's the fully factorized answer. So question 29, with a translation of a graph. So if it's translated to the right, it's affect the x value. So we have y equals to x something cubed plus 6, and we know that translating is add and subtract, and to the right is negative translation, so we're getting 4 units. So x is the weird thing that it flips left and right. So if you do x plus something, it actually shifts it to the left, which is the opposite way around to the x-axis, which is confusing, but there you go. Now we need to work out fx, which is this formula. So fx is equal to equal to x minus 4 cubed plus 6. So let's try to expand that. We know we're just gonna have to do this slowly, aren't we? So x minus 4, and we can use the quadratics. X squared minus 2 times 4 times x plus 16 plus 6. So that's the first expansion, and then we have the second expansion, which is just straight algebra really. We have x cubed minus 8x squared plus 16x minus 4x squared, minus of minus is plus, 4 times 8, 32x, and then finally minus 64 plus 6. And we have x cubed, take all the square term together, that's 12x squared, take all the x term together, that's 48x, and minus 64 plus 6, which is 58, I think. Yeah, so that's the expanded version. So the answer is x cubed minus 12x squared plus 48 minus 58. And that's all of this paper. So it wasn't too bad, was it? So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you learned something, do let me know in the comments below. And yeah, hope you have a good exam or good revision, whatever you're watching the video for. And I'll see you next time.